Hello YouTube, this is QuantumTuba, here to rant for you. This time, the target is conservatives who call themselves libertarians. What the fuck is that shit about? So, suppose you were to go to T-Lot, Top Libertarians, on Twitter. You'll find a lot of right-wing bullshit. You'll find praising of Palin, bashing of feminists, bashing of gay rights, all sorts of crap that's religious right-oriented. And we all know that the religious right is pretty much a sworn enemy of libertarianism. I mean, what is libertarian about legislating in people's sex lives, about imposing certain laws over women's own bodies and reproductive rights? Let me give you a hint. Nothing is libertarian about that. Nothing. It's the sort of thing that Murray Rothbard vomits upon, okay? It's the sort of thing that Wendy McElroy kicks in the dirt with frickin' logic. That's what libertarians do, is we pwn the religious right. So, how did it get to be the case that conservatives called themselves libertarians? How did everything get turned around so damn bad, in the words of Jello Biafra? So there's a quote on this matter from Lysander Woods that I find rather illuminating on this subject. What he said was, "Conservatism was always the philosophy of nativism, protectionism, nationalism, militarism, altruism, traditionalism, mercantilism, racism, sexism, and theocracy. The only reason why conservatism became friendly with individualism was to combat radicalism in the form of communism, political correctness, and forced integration. Let us not forget that political conservatism is the enemy, not the friend, of libertarianism." And in an age where liberals represent redistribution of wealth, it's rather easy for people to forget that. But think about all the issues where, as I pointed out in my video on corporatism, the fake free market, conservatives really do support redistribution of wealth. And also remember that liberals do favor things that are a violation of civil liberties, but we favor that to a degree less than what conservatives do. So, really both sides, at least within the political spectrum, are wrong for a libertarian. But let's move to actual claims by libertarians. The libertarian nominee for president, at least with the Libertarian Party this year, was Bob Barr. Not Babar, Bob Barr. And if you look at what he stated in his record before he became a libertarian, he's one of the most authoritarian politicians of all time. He voted for the Patriot Act. He was completely against church-state separation. He was against gay rights. He was just he wanted military border patrols to battle drugs and terrorism. He said that illegal drug traffickers were murderers, which in many cases they are. Wonder why that is? Because of the war on drugs. In Congress, he was a strong supporter of the war on drugs. Then suddenly he flip-flopped and became a libertarian. But even then, it appears that he still supported such things as, well, take for instance, the death penalty. Yes, how libertarian, giving the state the power to kill. At least I think he supported the death penalty. I can't find the source on that, but I've read that somewhere. Correct me if I'm wrong, which I may well be. But then let's also look at his vice presidential nominee, Wayne Allen Root. Wayne Allen Root. What did he have to say? If you look at his views now, pretty libertarian. Yeah, it's nice. But look at what he says. One of his rhetorical devices is to call himself a Reagan conservative, because he's a former Republican who switched to libertarianism. And for that, it becomes kind of apt to use the quote from Tom Hartman, which says that libertarians are mostly just Republicans who want to smoke weed and get laid. Rather apt in this case. And if you look at Wayne Allen Root's claims, he calls himself a Reagan conservative and uses Ronald Reagan in this. The problem is, although Reagan used plenty of libertarian rhetoric, he was never a libertarian in actions. Conservatives who claim they left the Republican Party because of George Bush must have just completely bought into Reagan's rhetoric and ignored his actions and his policies. You know, if you're one of those conservatives who calls people libertarians because they're like Ronald Reagan, you think Ronald Reagan is a libertarian? Fuck that! I'm a libertarian. Murray Rothbard's a libertarian. Wendy fucking McElroy's a libertarian. And here are some things that we, as libertarians, don't do. We don't run up deficits. We don't expand the power of the government in the war on drugs. We don't impede personal freedom on reproductive issues while using cheap libertarian rhetoric simultaneously. And we also don't initiate international terrorism in Nicaragua. That's kind of stupid, and it's certainly interventionist foreign policy. And throughout all this, we don't use libertarian rhetoric that completely clashes with our actions. Oh, another thing, we don't vastly expand the federal budget or overfund the US military massively. Now, we generally don't claim that ketchup constitutes a vegetable either, although that's not technically incompatible with the principles of libertarianism. It's just incompatible with the principles of botany. To call Ronald Reagan a libertarian is like calling me Mussolini. It's stupid and it's wrong. Now, of course, Ronald Reagan did use libertarian rhetoric. He cited Ludwig von Mises, and also, of course, Frédéric Bastiat, two highly prominent and important libertarian economists, in an interview with the libertarian periodical Reason magazine. But you'll note that in that same interview, Mr. Reagan, he explained why he would never be willing to legalize prostitution. Yes, how libertarian of him. And of course, I'm sure Mises and Bastiat would be very happy with running up a deficit and massively increasing the federal budget. I'm sure they'd love that, yes. That's certainly compatible with Austrian economics. Ronald Reagan, a libertarian, my ass. Also interesting to note is how many people who call themselves libertarians support increasing security on borders, whereas real libertarians like Rodley Balco, Reason Magazine, the Cato Institute, and Penn and Teller are in favor of simplifying the immigration process, or just all-out open borders, so as to avoid protectionism and to let people genuinely immigrate without having to go through a highly convoluted process. So, it's your choice. Follow the Republican Party line, or follow what the philosophy of liberty tells you. It's really up to you. Be rational or not. So, comrades who are conservatives and like to think of yourselves as libertarian, I give you two choices that I think are legitimate in my mind. Number one, get the fuck out of libertarianism. That would be easy. You could keep your reactionary, authoritarian, statist views on issues, statist actions, and everybody would be happy and we wouldn't be able to accuse you of being liars anymore. Or you could take a better route and read up on the philosophy of liberty. Read some Bastiat, read some Tom Paine, read some Murray Rothbard, possibly some Lysander Spooner, you know. Get read up on what it is to really be a libertarian. And grow some anti-authoritarian balls and or ovaries and join the fight against an encroaching state. It's your choice. Choose wisely.
This is counterculture.